Hey everybody, it's Midwest Comic Man coming at you today with Creator Spotlight Episode 5, which is Part 2 of the Joe Maneely Spotlight. I hope you watched Part 1. If not, the link is below in the comments. Since I spoke more about Joe Maneely in that episode, in this episode I'm going to focus on the covers only. As it's a covers only episode, I decided to go with 15 covers instead of my usual 10. So here we go, in no particular order. First, we have Strange Tales 40. Beautiful postcode issue of Strange Tales. I love how the fisherman in the background is blissfully unaware of what's happening behind him, and he's probably never going to believe what the guy tells him. And again, as is usual with Joe Maneely, we have amazing detail on things like the mermaid's hair, the scales, and the seaweed hanging from her arms. This is a beautiful cover. Up next, we have Western Gunfighters 23. I picked this one because this one's all about detail. The clothes show a ton of detail, as is usual with Joe Maneely, but two details really stood out to me. The shadowy reflection on the top of the bar and the posters on the side of the bar. In fact, the wanted poster on the side of the bar contains enough detail, and I feel pretty safe saying that the guy in the bar is the same guy. Amazing stuff, especially for that era. Nobody used to put that much detail into stuff. Up next, we have Six Gun Western number 2. This is a perfect example of an effect that Joe Maneely used a lot that I mentioned in part 1, where it creates separation between the primary focus on the cover and the background. The background characters have almost a wash effect applied that kind of makes them fade out a little bit, but while he does that, none of the detail is lost, and they're still incredibly detailed. But it makes the character up front pop off the page, creates real depth in a flat image, and makes it seem more real. That was one of Maneely's strengths. Up next, we have Jan of the Jungle 11. This is a nice action-packed Jan of the Jungle cover. Jan swoops down on a twisted vine to rescue some poor explorer from the river, as the natives approach, spears and shields at the ready. The vine looks even more realistic than most from this era, and it looks like it could actually hold someone's weight. Up next is Navy Combat number 5. To me, this is reminiscent of Russ Heath's fabulous gray tone covers that he used to do for Sea Devils, and Russ will be the focus of an upcoming Creator Spotlight. This cover manages to really grab your eye, while essentially only using shades of blue. The only other color is the red that's in the text and the title. I was always a sucker for Underwater Frogman covers, so this is clearly one of my favorites. Next, we have Lorna the Jungle Girl 19. It can't do a Maneely retrospective without at least one Lorna cover. Among other things, Maneely knew how to draw the ladies, particularly of the jungle variety. Like you said, we had Jan of the Jungle earlier, Lorna the Jungle Girl. He did a lot of those for them. Lorna here shows far more confidence than I would ever have by squaring off with a gorilla without even drawing her knife. I'd probably be quivering in the fetal position. Meanwhile, in the background, natives approach, weapons at the ready. Are they there to help Lorna or harm her? Couldn't tell you. Next up, we have Marvel Tales 108. This is a perfect example of one of the standard pre-code horror tropes. The overconfident young man who tries to impress his date to deadly effect. He thinks he's perfectly safe fooling around with a replica guillotine, but little does he know, the executioner has awoken. I don't think this is going to go how he expected, and somehow I don't think there's going to be a second date. Next up, we have Marvel Tales 116. Another pre-code horror staple was the werewolf. I mean, ACG Comics was built on werewolves and vampires. But this is the Marvel version, and it's the poor young girl. She's just trying to say hi to the nice young man who recently moved into the neighborhood and maybe score a date. He says he's in a rush, but she will not be denied. I don't know, maybe her biological clock is ticking. Unfortunately, full moon comes out while she's talking to him, and he transforms into a werewolf to her dismay. Again, I don't think this date's going to go where they wanted it to go. Next up, we have Mystery Tales 12, The Room That Wasn't There. The really cool effect here was the guy opening the door, and you see a room with invisible walls, a graveyard in the background, and a sinister skeletal figure. Again, great detail from Meneely, with an awesome use of light and shadow for dynamic effect. Next is Speed Carter Spaceman number 6. This is a great sci-fi cover by Meneely. He didn't do a ton of sci-fi, but he was able to slide right into it and knock out great covers like this one. Really great background detail with all the planets, and great alien monster attacking the men in the foreground. Be interested to see how the men get out of this one. Next, we have Submariner 39. Another genre Meneely didn't do much of was the superhero genre. If he'd lived longer, and I'm sure we would have loved his work, but we only have a few covers from the Submariner revival in the 50s. Being the 50s, it's all about better dead than red, with a strong anti-communist streak in comics. Remember I said I loved Frogman covers? Here we have an excellent one, with Submariner battling multiple communist agents who are attempting to blow up what appears to be a bridge support, all with a massive Soviet sub in the background. To me, doesn't get any better than this. Next, we have Suspense number 4. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I picked this one because as a Scotsman and a kilt out on the moors. That's always okay with me as someone of Scottish descent. But boy howdy, this is a great cover anyway. The terror and disbelief is clear on both the Scotsman and his bonny lass, and I get the feeling they recognize who's under that hood, and they are definitely not thrilled to see them. Next up is Western Outlaws. Can't go wrong with a good old hanging cover. Apparently, this hanging was a bit more sporty than most, as everyone has their guns drawn and blazing, and all we can see of the hanging victim is his boots. Great action scene, the sheriff clutching his arm where he's been shot, and he's firing off some shots of his own. Sounds like a grand old time. Next, we have Wild Western 47. I picked this one for two reasons. One is the awesome fire effects. Meneely used a wispy light brush to make it feel active, like it's really burning. You know, the fire just kind of flows like it would in real life. Second reason is the great silhouette effect of the two ornery cusses going up against Kid Colt. Even the fire can't save them as Kid Colt shoots their irons right out of their hands. And finally, we have Young Men number 11. Meneely also did a number of covers featuring the Sweet Science, boxing. In this one, the boxer clearly has his opponent beat, but in the background, a man nattily dressed in a pinstripe suit is hiding a gun behind a newspaper, saying, "So long, champ, you were supposed to take a dive." Can this really be the final count? So there you go. We got 15 more great covers from Joe Meneely, who, as legend would say, was gone too soon. I hope you enjoyed this look into some of the great books of the past. If so, smash that like button and sub me up. Also, if you need any info about my pressing and cleaning business, my web address is listed below in the description, and you can get my email address from there if you have any questions. Until next time, this is Midwest Comic Man.